Well, President Trump, for his part, tweeting, at least China tried when it comes to helping us with North Korea, which is sort of like when a teacher would tell me, nice effort, Neil. And it really wasn't a great effort. It's a China critic, Peter Kiernan. We've also got former CIA analyst Sumi Terry. Welcome to both of you. Sumi, this notion that the Chinese are not doing enough is widespread now in this country, especially after the death of this young man, and that the Chinese are stringing us along. What do you make of that?
China has been stringing us along for years. And, this happened under Clinton. Obama administration also tried to get China to do more, to rein in North Korea.
Bush, it goes back
and
a long
Bush,
way.
and everybody tried. This is a long-running theme, and China has been playing ball. They've not enforcing sanctions on the ground. They talk a good game, but they just have not been doing so.
So we've got to do something different. What do you think?
Well, I think the President Trump, I would say that, yes, in the past we haven't had much success. But I do think with coal and some other elements, there has been a little bit of sanction pressure put on. But I had a meeting not long ago with Henry Kissinger who said, if your strategy is to try and get China to turn its back on an ally, it's never done that in its history, and they're not about to start with Korea, particularly North Korea, where they want a buffer between themselves
and South Korea. But they must know they're playing with dynamite here, right?
I don't look at this email or text or tweet or whatever it was as an exoneration, like you're off the hook. I think it was an acknowledgement you tried, but I think the clear message is not to look at this in one dimension, but this is a message to China, you better try harder.
All right. Their behavior could change to me, but the rap on the Chinese is that maybe to avoid being called, a currency manipulator, unfair trader, and all day, we're going to string the White House along and try to drag this out as long as possible. Now, with the death of this young man, some are saying that has eclipsed even all the missile tests in North Korea, that it's hit a nerve. Will it change things or no?
Fundamentally, I don't think so. Rhetorically, maybe tactically, China will do a little bit more on the sanctions front. But fundamentally, China always says no war, no instability, no nukes, and in that order. So while they don't want nuclear program in North Korea, and Kim Jong-un is being a pain for Xi Jinping, fundamentally, China still wants no instability, no collapse, and wants a buffer. Again, don't want unified Korea, South-led unification. For all of these reasons, I don't think it will fundamentally change China's priorities and strategies.
So, Peter, the other option for us, when you talk about getting tougher, is that, all right, we're done dealing with sanctions on North Korea. Now we're going to get tough with you, China. Now, of course, that can be a double-edged sword here, but what are our options?
I don't think getting tough on China is the solution. I think we're getting about as much of them, I agree, as we're going to get. What I do interestingly find is that China recently said about us that we and North Korea are heading for a, quote, head-on collision, with neither side willing to blink. China does have a role to play here to tamp things down, but there's nothing more aggravating, I promise you, than these missile tests in China, including launching a test right in the middle of the One Belt, One Road initiative, right in the face of President Xi. They are not happy with North Korea, I can promise you that.
You know, what I see happening, Savannah, is, and maybe just being the numbers nerd here, is that when their markets are tanking or there's a fear of growing instability in that entire region and that China's perceived as unable to control it, and the tanking ensues, then only that might get China to do something. Now, it hasn't happened, but that's the only way I see them getting off the dime.
I think so. Short of a military conflict, if they sense that there might be a real war or conflict or instability or economic instability, maybe that's when China will act, but not right now. But I think what the Trump administration next is going to do is probably pursue secondary sanctions against Chinese banks and entities that do illicit business with North Korea, because that's the only other way to try to squeeze China.
The history with these type of trade wars, however you want to characterize an action like that, is that they get worse and they boomerang on the people initiating that war.
It doesn't get any better. It's interesting because if you look around, the Chinese stock market is doing reasonably well.
Right.
The Kospi in South Korea is up to new highs. And even when they're launching missiles at Japan, it doesn't seem to have any impact on the market whatsoever.
Well, because most people assume that nothing will come of this,
That's
right?
exactly where I was going. I don't think people think that something big is going to come of it.
What if something accidentally comes up? What if there's an errant missile? You know, there was one that was just off the coast of Japan, one that came very closer to Russia than it did anywhere else, that an accident, sort of a black swan development, could change everything.
Right. There could be an accident or miscalculation is now high, possibility for miscalculation from both North Korea and Washington. So even a conventional little tic-tac, remember when North Korea sank a South Korean vessel in 2010?
That's right.
Something like that could escalate into a greater crisis.
Yeah, the one thing I would say is a UVA alum myself and a father of 4 UVA alums, when you watch something like this elevate way beyond any of these commercial or market or military, this is top of mind all across the world. This may be the kind of thing that causes some real thinking.
When you say real thinking, one of the ideas that's been bandied about is they release the other, when I was talking to Ambassador Richardson yesterday, a good gesture would be release the other 3 American hostages. I think there's a Canadian hostage as well. And then we'll talk, but a promising development. But so far, North Korea is not giving any hint of doing that.
No, they're being intransigent. In fact, they're making moves. If you look around some of their nuclear test sites, it looks like they're moving forces in there.
That's right.
Yeah.
So they're being, one of those problem children do exactly what you don't want them to do. Unfortunately, there are the 3 Americans, 1 Canadian, I think half a dozen or so South Koreans. They could be an important element in whatever resolution, because if we don't go there, I'm afraid we're reducing the number of options and leaving one, which is this head-on collision, which I think we all fear.
You know, Sumi, I've heard reports that Kim Jong-un is afraid of an ISIS-like attack where he's taken down and killed in a terrorist attack. This sounds horrible the way I'm framing this. How do we make that look very real, that is a real possibility? And let's say even if it were, would it change his behavior?
Only if he thinks his life is in danger, it might change his behavior. But even then, I'm afraid that they might actually conduct more attacks just because...
What about a coup against him because others are getting concerned that he is
But
really
I don't think a coup is a possibility right now. He's been getting rid of everybody who could pose a threat. He got rid of his half-brother. He killed him in an international airport using WMD. Yeah. He got rid of everybody. I mean, we're on the 10th or 11th defense minister in North Korea.
I hear he, not only when he goes after his enemies, he goes after their entire families.
Absolutely. 3 generations of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And this is the important point, I think, here. Whatever we may feel, there is not one shred of remorse in this man over what's happened to this young fellow. And so the result is you can't deal with somebody with that mentality.
And why did they release him?
I think because he had no value to them anymore.
They released him because, you mean Otto? Yeah. They released Otto because Otto looked like he was about to die, and they didn't want him to die.
But what would they care if he died?
They still didn't want him to die in North Korea. They just want to get rid of him. I don't think it was out of benevolence that he released Otto.
And of the 3 that remain, you know, they have value. They're walking, talking, negotiating. This became they view him as an asset. They're this chattel. You have to look at the North Korean mentality as the lowest common denominator. They do not care. And what it may well be, this is a man who doesn't care about his own people. He's building missile defense systems when his people are starving.
Yeah. Guys, thank you both very, very much.